You all remember the viral Nazi grandma incident from a few weeks ago, the case where Antifa thugs harassed an 81-year-old woman and her husband and obstructed them from entering a political event at Mohawk College in Hamilton, Ontario, featuring Maxime Bernier and Dave Rubin. That lady's name is Dorothy Marston. She issued a statement shortly thereafter.
Free speech is a cornerstone of our democracy and can never and will never be denied.
And she was invited to attend the Canadian Leaders Debate as a guest of Bernier on Monday night. There are strange twists in the story of one of the people who harassed Dorothy and her husband in the crosswalk that afternoon. The story of this particular masked thug here, identified as al-soufi, a member of a Syrian refugee family who runs a restaurant in Toronto under the family name. Allah is the shop barista. The family and the restaurant were recently profiled in both the New York Times and an Uber Eats video piece.
Being around the same people who happen to be your family for a very long time is bound to create little problems.
You learn who has tempers, who doesn't.
Who has a temper?
Yeah, my sister has a terrible temper. I manage my anger by throwing on a ski mask and harassing the elderly in the street. And I want to emphasize that context. I see a lot of Twitter debate about the ethics of identifying this guy. Is it doxing or is it fair game? Now, generally, I'm not a fan of posting people's personal information as mob fodder, but I haven't seen anything but this guy's name posted, and that identification is relevant to an ongoing investigation of the incident at large. This isn't dogpiling a guy for making the wrong joke or having the wrong opinion or otherwise not victimizing people. It's identifying who's involved in potentially criminal activity, and I don't think putting on a ski mask and harassing people on the street entitles you to any expectation of privacy. Ethics debate aside, al-soufi was identified, and internet outrage against Soufi's restaurant resulted. The family says it received threatening messages, releasing 5 screenshot examples, some of which are comments on posts, some of which are direct messages. The family issued a statement saying that their son regrets the incident, that he did not verbally or physically assault Dorothy, and that he apologizes for not intervening, and that he stands up against oppression on behalf of oppressed communities in Canada and worldwide. But due to the magnitude of hate and potential danger to their family, staff, and patrons, the family says they are immediately and permanently closing their restaurant. Now, obviously, these messages are to be condemned. The threatening comments look legit. I personally looked up several of the accounts behind these messages, and they look real to me. I believe the threats to be authentic. Any threat of vigilante violence is out of bounds, and it's exactly why Antifa is so terrible in the first place. But that doesn't mean there aren't significant inconsistencies and oddities about this statement and the decision to close up shop. First, the family downplays their son's involvement in the incident. The family added in an email to a reporter that their son thought the event was an anti-terrorism protest. So he just wore the mask given to him, and he just stood there by the protesters. He wasn't an active participant. Hello, sir. Welcome to the anti-terrorism protest. Here's your complimentary ski mask to dress like a terrorist. Yeah, if you don't buy it, your instincts are right, and we don't have to rely on your instincts anyway. There is plenty of available footage of al-soufi actively participating in violent left-wing demonstrations prior, stealing what looks like a MAGA hat and having to be restrained, yelling at supposed Nazis to go home, getting casually violent at the mall, all of it under the proud wave of the hammer and sickle flag. And by the way, it looks like he's hanging out with that other Antifa thug too, the one who wasn't just passively standing there as Allah's family defends him, the one who was actively harassing Dorothy. This wasn't accidental happenstance or good intentions caught up in a bad scenario. This guy harasses people on the street habitually. He and his friends have made a club activity of it. To the threats and to the closure, does it make sense that even credible threats would cause a viable business to close permanently on a moment's notice? Does it make sense to delete your family's income? because people are threatening to delete your family's income? Again, I'm not justifying the threats, they're wrong. But this family isn't the first to face such a scenario, and people don't just immediately shut down their businesses as a result. The Red Hen restaurant that refused Sarah Huckabee Sanders faced death threats after the incident, and the business is still operational. The restaurant where hecklers harassed Ted Cruz and his wife faced death threats after the incident, and the business is still operational. A Kentucky restaurant that banned Trump faced death threats after the incident, and the business is still operational. I personally get similarly threatening messages, but I don't shut down this channel. I just take Joe Biden's advice.
Buy a shotgun. Buy a shotgun.
Yeah. The point is, it doesn't make sense that a healthy, stable business would cease operation immediately upon a threat, especially when it's likely that the threats will earn you money. The virtue signal army will march upon this establishment. The family already said this is basically their business model.
When we opened the restaurant and it was a Syrian cuisine, some people came just because we are Syrian, not because our food is good.
No, our food is...
I know our food is good, but they came because...
You don't need business competence when you can just leverage victimhood, and it looks like that's exactly what this family did. They announced their permanent closure on Tuesday, but within about 48 hours, they totally reversed course, announcing Thursday at a press conference that they are reopening Friday thanks to some deal of undisclosed specifics with Paramount Foods, a Middle Eastern restaurant chain in Canada. The Paramount CEO made the announcement at the restaurant inconsistently with the family's prior statements.
I'm stepping in, and the Paramount team will be stepping in to help them maintain this business open. The al-soufi restaurant will reopen on Friday morning. When I went and dealt with hate, people thought it's okay, Mohammed has business, has money. Money and business does not help when you're dealing with hate, especially when it involves your family and your staff.
Okay, so why are you here providing business and money then, if it doesn't help hate? The family's prior statement is that they're concerned for their safety, but this guy isn't here providing security. He's here with money and business management skills. The owner says he doesn't want to be the business that gives in to hate, but he immediately gave in to hate with no attempt to resist it. And nothing about this deal does anything to diminish hate. It's only about business management resources, which tells me where the problem likely lies. This whole spectacle is framed under the fraudulent idea that Toronto and Canada need to be accepting and tolerant places of love.
We're gonna send a message that hate will never win in Canada. The success of this restaurant has become a reflection of how welcoming we are as a society. I'm calling up on all the community members, the leaders, the people of Toronto, the people of Canada to support this family. They need your support.
Okay, but why is this even an issue? It's because one of the family members running this restaurant has a side gig, yelling at people on the streets of Toronto, telling them they are not welcome, and occasionally getting violent in his efforts to express that intolerance. I'm willing to meet this family in the principled middle by saying, yes, the threats against you are to be condemned, but they aren't willing to meet there by acknowledging their own role in starting and perpetuating hostility. They're saying their son isn't violent, that he isn't threatening. They take no responsibility. It's just deflect, twist, deny, until the guy being hostile and aggressive with innocent people on the street is somehow a pure victim in this story. If it's hate or intolerance or threats or violent aggression that are a priority to stop, start by stopping your son. Decency and principles are not the priority, though. Just like their son's ski mask, those are just convenient disguises they happen to find at the moment to cover up the only motive in this ridiculous circus: cashing in. Thanks as always for listening and for supporting this channel always. Appreciate that thoughtful discussion down below, and especially over on Twitter. That is at ML Christiansen. You're always welcome to coming out and chat in my live streams. Those are linked down in the description. Looking forward to it. Goodbye.